Ladies and gentlemen, my listeners, here I come again with the second version of the debate, United States presidential debate between Donald Trump and President Biden, and then I will continue exactly where I stopped at, and you're welcome to enjoy it with positive attitude.
Economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have is
and they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
Well, I do believe there are a lot of beautiful points here delivered by Mr. Trump, definitely, especially the issue of Ukraine. Meaning, well, when is it going to stop anyway? How much money is it sucking out of Americans? How much pressure is putting on the world economy? When are we going to? How about the deserts? And who's going to benefit out of this? Ukraine, as a country, as a nation, or the United States of America? Who's benefiting out of this, actually? Who's selling arms? And who's biting the dust in the whole world as such? Endless war. Actually, the excuse itself, to my understanding, because Russia is supposed to be coming back and then she will attack the NATO. Well, the NATO was already standing on a fit while the Warsaw has been out. I don't think the Russians had the intention to reproduce the Warsaw. Therefore, the excuse was really terrible. I don't know why the NATO is actually existing to begin with in the absence of Warsaw. Okay, this is my idea here. But then again, when is the war going to stop? When is it going to stop? I don't think Mr. Biden has no intention to stop it. He's continuing doing it, continuously doing it. Well, but there is a chance Mr. Trump can stop it, probably. I don't know. Just my opinion, anyway, my opinion. But there is no good reason for the United States of America to continue supporting the war in Ukraine, nor is it beneficial for the Ukrainian people because they're actually being killed. They cannot take any more punishment economically, socially, and all these problems they're facing. Therefore, somehow somebody has to stop it. But I do believe there was a good point right there. As far as Afghanistan is concerned, of course, we were there for a long time. But we had been defeated. It was embarrassing in a way. America investing all this money, just going into this endless war and then finally losing it. The democracy we tried to implement in that country didn't work. And here we are again back to square one. Okay, let's see what's going on. Let's go back and see. Continue.
You're going to love this free AI meeting.
Is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place. Number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms
Well, I do believe 100,000 soldiers out of Afghanistan, they safely got out of there. But can we believe that we won the war? Actually, we definitely safely took out our army out of Afghanistan because we had the capacity to do it. But did we lose the war or not? Well, the question remains to be answered by every American, by every interested individual. Next.
acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine.
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have
Well, I think this was a very strong message to all of us. If this message is true, in a way, spending $200 billion and then still going on for endless war, we don't even know when it's going to stop. And here, we want to continue the war under the Biden administration, where Trump is promising to stop it, to make peace between them. In this situation, I enjoy and like Mr. Trump's idea, because we don't need no wars. We don't need any war in those countries, man. Anywhere else for that matter. And Ukraine is basically draining, but I don't even know how many years it's going to take it to come back. How much of money the world has to invest or the Ukrainians to do to come back to where they were. It was a total destruction. To my understanding, I think the Ukrainian agenda was just a sacrificial issue for a political cause against the Russians. And the Russians had the reason to be cautious about it. Therefore, the United States can't stop it. I think the United States has to take the initiative to stop it. Because the NATO destruction excuse doesn't make sense to me as a person. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think Putin is trying to destroy Europe, or the NATO, for that matter, but actually definitely doesn't want Ukraine to go NATO because it's too close. And there were agreements also that were broken by the United States of America, to my understanding.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Of course, we're giving a lot of money to them in terms of arms, but who are they buying it from? Who are we buying the machines from? The machine guns, all that killing machines, basically, from those who produce arms, right? So we are enriching billionaires basically at the expense of a lot of cases everywhere else. And I don't believe Russia is a threat to Europeans unless we actually provoke them to fight against us. What I'm saying is there was no intention to attack NATO, to my understanding. I don't believe it. Anyway, let's go. And then this is not a way to continue. This is not a way to continue it, because Russia, as such, is trying to come back, to my understanding, to the level of equality with the United States of America, not to dominate. Because the domination, the unipolar policy was going on after the destruction of Warsaw. And the chances that Warsaw is going to come into life again, it's not possible, because many of the Warsaw nations have got democracy anyway. Russia, Soviet Union has been broken down to 15 nations. Nobody wants to be united again in that kind of situation. You understand what I'm saying? Therefore, I don't think so. And let's go. The war in Ukraine, to my understanding, is a sacrificial experience for the Ukrainians, for the political interest of the United States of America, to be on top of the world, to my understanding, by weakening the competitor Russia. Therefore, this is the way I look at it.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing
Security Council, straight through to the G7, to the Israelis, and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan they put forward, which has three stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are two different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Mr. Biden, but the amount of violence that we saw was not really necessary as such. Now South Africa is so angry, and many other states are suing Israel for genociding people in Gaza. Basically, I don't know if it's true or not. To my understanding, you were part of it too. And you're accusing a lot of countries in Sudan for violence, for terrorism. But South Africa is putting hands on you also at the World Court as one of the terrorists that actually put the whole problem in the Gaza Strip and then the problems in Israel. Definitely the Gaza Strip was a very sensitive issue. I do believe The Hamas, reckless Hamas caused the problems. Hamas should never have penetrated Israel alone. Hamas was totally adventurous, in a way, very reckless political moves that costed the Palestinians a whole lot. But did the Palestinian people did they have to be punished with the kind of punishment they actually received by Israel? And the violence goes after Gaza was totally destroyed, almost. We were part of it, sir. Therefore, is it possible for the United States of America to accuse other countries of violence or actually trespassing human rights as such by doing this kind of damage to other people around the world? Let's continue. Let us continue.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel.
Well, definitely, this issue, actually, I think he had another point to put on. Definitely another point to put on. We're putting a lot of money. Most of the money is the NATO community. And why is that so? And Americans are suffering here in many directions of life, many dimensions of existence. So why are we supporting the NATO more than our share? It's a good question. I don't know how he's going to handle it. Let's go to the Gaza stuff, to the Middle East.
Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
Go ahead, let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace.
On trade, I made great trade deals with the European nations.
Oh, that are our allies anyway, definitely. They will have to support us. America leads political zigzags around the world, and therefore we have a lot of followers. Well, does it justify the war in Ukraine? Morally, financially, and politically? I don't think so.
Because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this. I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump counting of electoral votes. As president, you...
Well, I got to say something right here, definitely. How about the violence in East Africa, in the Horn of Africa? The United States, America's involvement in the Ethiopian crisis right now. A terrorist group called TPLF has come back because of our policy, for a reason we don't understand. The cause of the main problem, the root of the cause, the root of the problem in Ethiopian politics. Root of the problem in the Eritrean politics. Was it necessary to accuse Eritreans time and time again? actually of vandalism or of terrorism or supporting some kind of terror in the Horn of Africa just because they want to be self-reliant, because they want to work hard to make themselves sufficient, at least food-wise. Okay, unless Eritrea was supposed to be dependent on the American politics, unless America actually imposes on the Eritreans based on the IMF lending money and all that kind of thing, then they are supposed to be terrorists. Are they really terrorists? How was the policy in those regions? Actually? How did we play the politics in Sudan? Why cannot we stop the war in Sudan right now? Why cannot we stop the wars in Ethiopia right now? How about what did we learn about the experience in Tigray? And what is the situation in Tigray? The people in Tigray right now, and who's responsible for that? TPLF was chosen against the Tigrayan people, and who's responsible about all these genocides that went on in there? Do we have hand in there too? Ladies and gentlemen, this is my question. As an international activist from that region, but dedicated American at the same time.
Swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to stop here and probably count for the third time because it's going to take a while. Well, at least there are about 10 minutes in that video that I prepared for you, but yet it will take a lot of time for me to put in and then discuss my inputs also. But the way I look at it so far, the United States government is actually trying to get a new president, of course, whichever way it goes. To my understanding, this was the judgment. This was the judgment that I can give you neutrally as a citizen of America, as a beneficiary of America, United States of America. But I cannot believe that our policies were going in different directions. For example, when it comes to the Eritrean issues, United States of America was just connecting with people who don't have any connection with the people of Eritrea. Okay, therefore we lost right there too. We didn't go to the Eritrean people, to the roots, okay? And then find out some interesting Eritreans who can actually help American politics maneuver its strategy based on neutrality, on the middle grounds. That was lost too, and then I hope the situation in East Africa will improve. I hope whoever comes to the White House will actually revise all the problems in the Horn of Africa and bring up a lasting solution to the peoples and also to the strategic interest of America. Thank you very much. Do not forget to uplift. Do not forget about that. And we are here for peace. Okay, no violence at all. Very peaceful transition to human dignity for what it is. Appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. Thank you.